Hey, everyone. So a couple minutes early, but we're going to wait till we usually do about 50 people and then get started. I think you got me by myself today. The girls were busy. 19. Hey, Diane. Hey, Gerald. Billy, Robert. Nice to see you guys. Roselle, did you see we used your father's photo? Hey, Erwin. Yeah, Diane, I think Mike even reposted that snap of you from the video on LinkedIn, I think it was, or Facebook, I don't remember. Hey, Robert. Izzy, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. So we're at 34. We'll wait till we get up to 50. Hey, Cheryl. So did you guys watch the video? How did you like it? I know it made me cry from like 7:30 this morning. Every time I watched it, I cried. Blessings to you too, my friend. Yeah, Joe always does a great job. 40, we're getting there. Yeah, so we got a lot more photos even afterwards. So I think we're gonna have to do a second one. Hey, Murray, how you doing? I know, Cheryl. He really has a special touch. He and I just chatted briefly about what my vision was, and then he just created it. I know, Ellen, I was crying all morning. You know, Diane, we do have a lot of stories, but I am working on another one. So, and if I didn't have my treatment today and I wasn't feeling under the weather, I probably would have done that one and it would have been okay. But um, I'm just we just couldn't connect. I got home too late from the hospital. So we are at 50. So I'm just going to start the day with just asking if anyone has any questions or if there's something you wanted me to address. And we'll make it a brief night, and then maybe I'll see if I could pull up that video and play it for those who didn't have a chance to watch it. Hey, Dave. Hey, Brad. Karen, I think we all cried. But you know what? It goes to show that we have a very rich history as retirees. We did these jobs before those that are now currently in our old positions, whether we were teachers or firefighters or EMS or police officers or whatever it is that you did. That they should be able to recognize that they look like us, and then one day they will look like us now, and that they have to understand the differences between their benefits today and how their benefits change when they get older, and that that we negotiated a benefit and paid for that. They shouldn't be so willingly or easily able to give that up. And because they think that there's no difference to it, or maybe they think there's no difference. Maybe they don't notice the benefit of it. Maybe they don't realize that it's probably in some ways better than what they have as a non-Medicare eligible. So of course they'd be willing to get rid of it because they just think it's the same where it's not the same. Either that, or they're just so desperate to fund their own collective bargaining agreements that they don't really realize what they're giving up, or maybe they don't care. Like, we did speak to a couple of young people, and those people said, well, I just want cash now. And actually, one of those surveys that DC 37 did basically said that, remember, I think I read it to you a couple of weeks ago, it was it was due right around the time of the rally. And they asked what the priority for what they wanted for the next round of collective bargaining was. Well, the results came back from that, and it was the civilian. It was a civilian union, so it's DC 37, and that their major concern was wages and working from home, telecommuting. So very different from most of our other jobs that we couldn't do that way, but. Maria Torchia Jernigan, thank you very much. She writes, really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you do and being so persistent. You're welcome. We all love doing this. They will be following in our shoes, whether they realize it or not. But you know what? You got to remember too, when we were them at their age, young in our jobs, did we really think about that? Not really. Did we think about our future? I mean, look at what these answers were. They could have, the responses to that union survey from the district council could have put other things in priority. They primarily put wages and telecommuting as their primary concern. They're not interested in their futures. They're not interested in insurance. There was relatively no response to that, which was kind of shocking to see. I know when I was on the job, one of the things I thought about was more of my future, not just my present, because I knew my future, from having grown up with an extended family, my future would look different. Ellen says, I worked through and after 9/11 downtown when EPA said the air was just fine and it wasn't. We need traditional Medicare, Medicaid. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, this is another good point too. If there are any 9/11 responders there, or those who worked or lived in the area of downtown, that they should be registering for the 9/11 program. If you haven't, or the VCF, the Victims Compensation Fund, then reach out to us. We've been using Barish and McGarry as the official law firm for the retirees, and they've been working with us. Actually, Richie Allies, who's on here, even works for that law firm. So if you have a question, you could reach out to me or Richie, and I'm sure we can help guide you to making sure you're registered. And you should be registered for the World Trade Center Monitoring and Treatment Program as well, whether you live in New York or outside of New York, because they do have the national program. So Gerald says, what kind of excuse can the city use regarding first saying insurance was free, then 6 years later, it's not in our lawsuit? Oh, it's not. Oh, I see what you're saying. So first, I don't think they're really answering that question. Their argument is, remember what they said, their argument is that they only have to offer one free plan, one. And we kept saying, no, you have to offer all plans that you do offer up to the HIP HMO benchmark. So if you offer 8 plans or 14 plans, if they're under the cap, then the city has to pay up to that cap. If they're under the cap, it's still under the cap, the city still has to pay. Then that letter was in the New York Post, and it came out that the city knew in their own interpretation that they had to pay for any plan that the city offered under the cap. So that actually was addressed. The judge did address that, and he did say that the city had to pay for any plan under the cap, that any plan that was on the table under the cap. So he actually did say that. That was in our lawsuit, and it's still in our lawsuit, and it's still in the appeal. Janet, excellent video. Perhaps the next one will show more of the diversity we have. Janet, I'm not quite sure what diversity you're looking for. We had men, women, younger, older, everything was in there. We could use what photos people sent us. So sorry if you're disappointed, but I could only use what I got. Let's see. Thank you, Ellen. I'm glad you're registered. Thank you, Diane. Good point. Yes, David. David says that you should also sign up for World Trade Center through NYSERS. Deadline is September of this year. If you are under NYCERS, if you're under NYSERS, other pension funds may actually have a separate form, but there is a form for you to sign up if you are affected by World Trade. That's all I'm seeing. Oh, so George, if you want to send your photos to us, send us a photo from when you were first employed, and then send us a photo of you today. And you can send it to photos@nycretirees.org. And that's photos with an S, PHOTOS, at nycretirees.org. Send us what year this was from, send us what agency you work for, what your title was, and then your photo today. And give us a week or two. We'll try to throw together another one. So just attach them to an email. Janet, 98% were white folks. Really, Janet? I could only put in the video exactly what people hand in. We are definitely not against putting in racial photos of people of different races or genders or whatever. I could only use what we get. Any hearings by city council in the works? James, we have not heard anything. Not that we're not asking, but we're also being ignored, which is one of the other important things we'll probably start in the next week, is trying to get people to make more of those phone calls to the council. Yes, Karen, see, thank you so much. And I loved your pictures too. Yeah, I don't create things or make up things in order to have something to write or say or publish. I could only use what's given to us. So if I don't get it, I have to use what I have. So does anyone else have any questions? She just like skid into the sofa. I was very happy with that video. I had a vision of something that I wanted to see, and I literally just described it. I don't know, Dave. And I just basically described it. I had braids in the 60s and now a natural. I used to have braids in the 60s too. Will media do a story about us? It depends, I guess. Do you have a specific story you want? What would the story look like? What would you want? What would you want to tell? I had reached out to New York One. They've not replied back. I forget the gentleman's name that I kept emailing. Errol, I think his name is, doesn't reply back. So if any of you talk to Errol and you know this Errol from New York One, reach out and tell him what story you want him to talk about, and then give him my phone number. You know me, I'll talk to anybody. I know, Ellen, it made me weepy too. The video is thought-provoking. We applied for our city jobs for the health benefits and pension at the end of the rainbow. The salary is not so much. And if you see the difference in today's generation, they're completely opposite. And you know, when I think that's generational, Jean says, I had hair in the 60s, now not so much. It's a generation from generation, there's different importance. You know, you put a value on something different, and we learn by what our parents instilled in us, right? So I'm not quite sure where that message goes. I'm not really sure where that message goes. I know my mom, who is also a teacher, but she was a teacher later in life, not early. When I was a child, my mom was stay at home and she did other work, but not for the city. And it was important, you know, for my mom that we saved for our future. We were always told, prepare for your future, save for your future. She would take us to the bank with our little bank books and our little allowance to put into the bank, and the banker's name, and we lived in Coram, Long Island, and the banker was Mr. O'Brien. I still remember this to this day. And we used to give the lady at the counter, the teller, our money on our bank book, and then we'd want to go see it because he said you leave it in the bank and it grows. So we'd wanted to see our money. So he would walk us over to the safe, the big safe in the back, but we never really went in there. But we wanted to see our cash, you know. So your parents instill some of these values in you. My mom clearly installed in us that we needed to prepare for our future, whether it was for healthcare or pension or whatever. And I remember when I took my city job, I left a high-paying corporate job for the city job because of the benefits. I literally took a huge pay cut to come here because I knew it would prepare me for my future. Today's generation doesn't seem to have that importance. For some reason, the generational divide, they're more worried about the right now than they are later. Research News 12. Let me know if that works, Diane. I mean, like I said to you, I'll talk to anybody. Ellen says, what about the Post? They found the Lynn letter. Can they do a video? What do you mean a video? It's a newspaper though, right? I like Mary Poppins. Very funny, Di. We would bank every Monday in school. See, and my mom took us every Saturday. We got a lollipop. They were those dum pops that now I think they're like the size of a peanut, and I remember them being so much bigger. City jobs were considered good. And yes, Camille, city jobs were considered good and secure. Like I said, it was during a recession that I left my corporate job. I was laid off. I was the first one hired, last one hired, first one fired, right? So I kept saying, how is this possible? How could they let you go because it's a recession? Like, don't they owe you anything? Like, no, you're corporate. They don't owe you anything. Okay, then what? Oh, you should go to civil service. You'll have job protection and benefits and things like that. Because then I was laid off. I had no term time and when I would be returned back to the job. I lost my health insurance. So it's like, and you're young, so you're like, okay, I definitely don't want this. This gives me so much uncertainty. And that's where civil service came in. Yeah, back then banks gave you a toaster. Very funny, Gerald. Oh my God. If we happen to lose this battle, what would be the next move for us? So, George, there's a couple battles here, and I can't really tell you what would be the next battle, what would be the next move, because the attorneys did say that if we didn't win this appeal, we would then debate whether or not we could appeal to the higher court. So there's still one more stage left, and then of course, we have the case that we just filed last Friday, and then there's something else brewing. I can't really talk about that yet, but there's something else brewing. Annie and Nesta, why isn't the city tiering retirement health benefits the same way TRSNYC tiered pensions? Well, and that would go for grandfathering, and that's something that the unions, I think, have been hesitant in doing, as has the city. But I think either that might be coming or it's still on the table for negotiation. It all depends upon what comes out of their current bargaining. I think that should be probably an option that they would, if you're talking about tiering, as in tiering that we would be grandfathered in our plans and then they can negotiate going forward. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about like we'd have different pension benefits as in tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 6? Diane, I took my city job because I wanted a pension and healthcare when I retired. Amen, sister. Carol Blum, when I started in 1965, many of my fellow caseworkers didn't expect to stay and weren't interested in pension or healthcare. My aunt had started with the city in 1934, and she said, you don't know what will happen. Contribute to the pension, prepare for the future. That was a smart aunt. I remember in our jobs, we had a lot of people that never went civil service, and they eventually got laid off. They also didn't join the pension because they didn't think they'd stay there long enough, and they didn't think they'd get hurt to need it. It was like a Superman complex, Ellen says, same here. I had a serious pre-existing condition, and before the ACA, that made the city very attractive as you were guaranteed coverage. And you have to say that when these plans were put in place in the 1940s, that was visionary. Jean Cullen Jimenez, my dad and most of his siblings took city jobs because his father. I think we all loved our work. That's why we stayed doing it. Annie says, leave us alone and put actives into a new health benefits tier that can vote on pre-retirement. Annie, I'm still trying to get a meeting with Harry, Henry, and Michael. I spoke with Harry last week. I spoke with Henry last week. Michael's not returning my phone calls. Harry wanted me to speak to his lawyer, which I did. His lawyer hasn't called me back. So Mr. Klinger, if you're following this video, you do owe me a phone call and now an appointment because the window closed on when we were supposed to have that meeting. But then this could be a potential option that we could discuss with them and see what their idea is on that. It might still be construed as grandfathering, but I like the way you phrased that, Annie. Gwen Miller, I remember after corporate employment, my director on day one said, get in the pension and 401k, and I did. George says, I loved plowing that snow. That's because you probably made good overtime, dude. Jean says, my father and his brothers and friends took city jobs after being children of the Depression. They knew they were secure jobs with good benefits. My cousins and I followed them into city jobs. Yep. Mary says, my father was NYPD. He said, work for the city, you'll never go hungry. I think a lot of us had that same message. It was security. You knew that your job would always be needed. You were union, or most of us were union, and you had job security because of that. Yeah, Diane, I loved my job with EMS too. It definitely was an adventure, I'll give you that. But I also didn't think I would be there forever. I thought I went in as a stepping stone, but just never stepped out. You're welcome, Annie. I'm glad you liked it. Because it had to be a tribute to all of you as well. It needed to send a message, but it needed to tribute your service. So we did upload it to YouTube. It is on YouTube. I'll be emailing that link out tonight or tomorrow morning. That way everyone can see it, share it, watch it. Joe did post the YouTube link on our page, so you can copy paste it and put it onto your own pages and share it with your friends. Marilyn says grandfathering would be a good option. I seem to remember at the time, at the day that I turned in my retirement to TRS, they said when I go into Medicare, I'd have my senior care as my secondary insurance and I would never have to worry about it. Yeah, famous last words. I hope the trolls see the video. Well, you know, Di, I actually have a plan to email this out to the unions. Maybe they'll watch it. I'll let you know. Jean, I knew, see, my city service wasn't continuous. I came back much later, bought back my time, cobbled together 20 years. If I stayed in HHC in the 80s, I would have done much better and retired earlier. Yep. That's sugar, Gwen. My camera hog is down here on the floor. I'm like rubbing her head with my foot. Here, Jules. Come on. She's coming. There you go. That's the camera hog. Yeah, famous last words. Famous last words. Very true. I know, Di. They are the love of my life. My little fur babies. Most definitely. Very true. So we did have a winner tonight for tonight's drawing that Madeline had forwarded to me. If your initials are LV, you are this week's winner. She will be contacting you to let you know that that your name was picked by the computer, and that we'll be sending you something. So thank you again for those donations. Thank you for supporting this organization, for our fight, for your persistence, for your patience, for everything. We truly appreciate it. Gwen says city jobs today are not fulfilling, at least to me. It all a numbers game, and I feel for the folks that seek city service. You know, and I think over time things change. That everything seems to change. You know, it wasn't the way it used to be when we were there. I know when I go back, it doesn't always feel the same anymore. You're welcome, Di. You know, we have a really good team that really works our asses off, and on top of everything, you know, going on, that we still, you know, push forward. It's not easy. Ellen says, so pissed at Mulgrew for calling twice in robocalls, telling us who we should vote for, why the union doesn't represent us. Did you hear me screaming into the phone? Probably. But I have another fun project I'm working on for next week, and so you can let Mr. Mulgrew hear how you feel. It's it's just a fun thing. It'll probably never get anywhere, but you know, it'll cost you an envelope and a stamp, basically. But you'll see. I'll show you next week. Marianne, what did Henry have to say when you talked? Not too much. He did say I was right about something when I told him that this Medicare Advantage plan was going to impose over 87 prior authorizations on us, and he told me no, it wouldn't, and I said yes, it would, and I sent him that one-page document that I shared with all of you guys, you know, several months back that me and Madeline and Michelle had worked on, and in that meeting he actually said I was right. You're right. They lied to us. No kidding. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate your donation. I know everyone here does. You know, we're working on making sure that we have enough funds in the bank to be able to fund, you know, this potential argument that we filed on last Friday, and then also the appeal coming forward and the cross appeal. And those are in September, so it gives us a little time. George Roman, I'm wondering when they are going to privatize sanitation. George, I never heard that. Is there actually talks about privatizing sanitation? Thanks, Di. You know, sometimes they really think we make things up, you know, but I have to be honest, we have more and more unions and retiree organizations. We have a couple of 1013s and firefighter groups that have been reaching out to us over the last couple of weeks and asking us to come and speak with them. So it's a good thing that they're finally listening and that they're seeing that there should be a concern and that they need to get involved, and it can't just always be us all the time. They need to join this fight. They privatized some of corrections, not sanitation. I'm wondering, well, Mike, I hadn't heard about that either. I wonder if that's why they're having so much problems at the jail. I don't know. You guys are crazy. Well, it's 9 o'clock and I'm gonna sign off. If you have any more questions, I'll wait around for another moment. Otherwise, I want to wish you all a very happy 4th of July, a safe 4th of July. Again, to whoever LB is, we will let you know. You'll get a phone call from Madeline thanking you for your donations and letting you know that you were this week's winner. And thank you for everything you guys do. Your pictures were absolutely touching, and I wanted to do them justice and serve honor to them where it was due. So when, you know, people say thank you for your service, it is that you did serve the city of New York, and that should be respected. Not just by the city of New York, but by your former unions. And we wanted to remind them of that. So I love you guys. You have a wonderful weekend. I don't see anything else in the chat, so it's just after 9, so I'm going to say goodnight. Have a wonderful weekend. I love you guys, and I will see you Tuesday. It is a 3-day weekend, so we're giving our moderators the time off. So you enjoy yourself as well, and then we'll all be back and see you next week. Pass out that link. Let everyone see the then and now video. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.